Anya sat by the window seat, her eyes fixed on the clouds outside as the plane slowly taxied toward the runway. She held a small backpack tightly in her lap and wore a faded denim jacket that had once belonged to her mother. Her fingers played nervously with the necklace around her neck, a silver locket that contained her mother's picture. She hadn't spoken a word since the flight took off. The seatbelt felt tight across her chest, but she didn't complain. She wasn't scared of flying. She had flown before, many times, but this time was different. This was her first flight alone. No father sitting beside her to tell stories. No mother smiling gently with warm hands on hers. Just her and the humming engine of the giant metal bird carrying her across the sky. The plane climbed into the air, the engines roaring louder, and Anya felt her ears pop slightly. She swallowed and looked around. People were relaxing. A man beside her was already dozing off, his mouth open. A mother across the aisle was trying to stop her toddler from crying. A couple at the back were whispering and giggling to each other. Everything looked normal, but in Anya's heart, nothing felt normal. Her hands tightened around the locket as she thought of the fresh flowers she had left at her mother's grave just a day ago. "I'll be okay, Mom," she had whispered, tears rolling down her cheek. "I'm flying back now. I promise I'll be brave." She didn't know if the sky would listen, but the moment she stepped onto the plane, she felt something strange, like a quiet whisper inside her saying, "Watch carefully." As the plane leveled out at cruising altitude, the seatbelt signs turned off with a ding, and the cabin crew started their routine. A young air hostess smiled politely as she passed by, handing out refreshments. Anya shook her head when offered juice. She wasn't thirsty. She was too busy thinking. She opened her backpack and pulled out a small notebook. It was filled with scribbles, drawings of airplane dashboards, buttons, and flight controls. Her father had been a pilot. She had sat in many cockpits as a child, sometimes on his lap while he pretended to let her fly. Those were her best memories. She would draw everything she remembered: the levers, the yoke, the radio, even the warning lights. He used to say, "You've got sharp eyes, Anya. One day, you might fly this bird for real." She smiled faintly at that memory. Her father was gone now too, lost to a training crash when she was just 11. Her world had changed overnight, but those memories stayed, and so did the love for flying. She flipped through the notebook as the plane gently rocked side to side. Nothing too unusual, maybe turbulence. The captain's voice came on, calm and professional. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're cruising at 30,000 feet. Expected arrival in just under 2 hours. Please sit back and enjoy the flight." Then the intercom clicked off. Anya looked out the window again, watching the clouds roll past like slow waves on an ocean. Everything seemed calm to calm. 10 minutes later, the first jolt came. Not sharp, just enough to make the cup of juice on a tray table slide an inch. Some passengers looked up, but the crew moved calmly, reassuring everyone it was just normal. Turbulence. Anya wasn't nervous either. She had felt worse. But then came a second jolt, stronger. The plane dipped slightly, and a few gasps echoed in the cabin. The fasten seatbelt sign blinked on again. A stewardess walked briskly down the aisle, strapping herself into a jump seat. Anya's heart started to pound. Something didn't feel right. She looked around. A baby cried louder. A man cursed under his breath. An old woman clutched her chest. But no one screamed. The plane shook again, then steadied. Anya tried to take a deep breath. Maybe it really was just turbulence. Her fingers tightened around the locket again. Suddenly, the cabin lights flickered once. Then again, a loud crack came from above like static or a minor explosion. Passengers started whispering nervously. Anya sat up straighter. Something was wrong. The intercom buzzed, but this time there was silence. No captain's voice, just static. Then came the worst part. Oxygen masks dropped from the ceiling. Panic spread like wildfire. Screams filled the air. People reached up, grabbing at the masks, fumbling to put them on. Anya's hands moved quickly. She had practiced this before. She pulled the mask over her face, tightened it behind her head, and took slow breaths. She looked around. Chaos. A man collapsed sideways. A stewardess tried to help him. The lights dimmed further. Then they heard it, a strange whimper through the intercom, a male voice. "This is a we have." Then silence. The voice didn't sound like the captain. It sounded unsure, young, afraid. The crew rushed toward the front of the plane. Anya watched one of them whisper something urgently to the head stewardess. Her face turned pale. They both disappeared behind the curtain that led to the cockpit. People were screaming. Some were crying. A man yelled that his wife couldn't breathe. Someone near the back vomited. Anya looked around, her own breath still calm through the mask. Then she saw a little boy near the aisle, crying alone. His mask was half off. No one noticed. She crawled over, adjusted the mask over his face, and gave his hand a light squeeze. "You're okay," she said softly. The boy nodded through his tears. "What's happening?" he asked. Anya didn't know how to answer. She looked toward the cockpit again. No one had come out. No new announcement. Nothing. She heard people starting to ask loudly, "What's going on? Why isn't anyone telling us anything?" Then a tall man with glasses stood up and began walking to the front. A steward tried to stop him, but he pushed through. "We need answers," he shouted. He reached the cockpit door and knocked hard. No response. He tried the handle. Locked? He banged harder. Open the door. Are you alive in there? Still, no answer. Enya's heart raced. Then, as the man turned to argue with a crew member, the intercom crackled again. I'm here, came a weak voice. This is the co-pilot. The cabin went silent. Everyone froze. The captain, he's unconscious. He passed out. I've activated the emergency signal, but something's wrong. I'm alone. People began shouting. What do you mean alone? Who's flying the plane? Is this a joke? What happened to the captain? The co-pilot's voice returned, shaky and full of fear. We lost communication. Some of the instruments aren't responding. I'm trying to control manually. Butai don't know how long the intercom cut off. The plane jolted again, this time sharply. A drink cart toppled. A child screamed. Someone shouted, "We're going to die." Anya didn't scream. She felt something cold settle in her stomach, like the click of a puzzle piece. Her fingers gripped the notebook in her lap. Her father's voice echoed in her mind. Always trust your instincts. You're sharper than most adults. Her eyes drifted toward the front. No one had returned from the cockpit. No one knew what to do. The crew was shaken. One stewardess had sat down, her face buried in her hands. Another whispered frantically into a walkie-talkie. Anya stood up slowly. She didn't know exactly what she would do, but she knew she couldn't just sit there. Not while everyone panicked. Not while the plane drifted helplessly at 30,000 feet. She took one step forward, then another. Her notebook fell to the floor, pages fluttering open. One page showed a rough sketch of a cockpit panel, with a circle around one button. Manual override. It was a drawing she made after her father showed her during a simulator run. She remembered the day clearly. He had leaned in and said, "If anything ever fails, this is what they used to fly, like it's old school." Anya stared at that drawing, on the floor, then back at the door. She walked toward the front slowly. No one noticed at first, too busy arguing, crying, praying, but the head stewardess saw her and called out, "Miss, please sit down." But Anya didn't stop. She looked up at the trembling woman and said in a calm, clear voice, "I know how to help. I've been in the cockpit before. Please let me in." The stewardess stared at her, shocked. "You're just a child," she whispered. Anya nodded. "But I know what I'm doing. Please." The woman didn't move. The plane shook again. Lights flickered, screams rose again. And Anya looked her in the eye and said just one more thing. "If we wait any longer, it might be too late." The stewardess looked torn. Her eyes flicked to the locked door, then to the frightened passengers, then to the young girl in front of her, standing so still, so calm, holding a sketchbook filled with aviation panels. Somewhere deep inside, something told her this wasn't an ordinary child, the kind of child who didn't run from storms but stepped into them. And as the plane trembled above a sea of clouds, as fear gripped every soul aboard, the door to the cockpit slowly began to unlock. The cockpit door opened with a quiet click that somehow felt louder than all the screaming behind her. Anya stepped forward slowly. The air felt different inside, heavier. The hum of machines and alarms surrounded her. The space was tight. The light from the overhead panels flickered softly, glowing red in some places, green in others. She had seen this setup before, once real, many times in her memories. But now it was different. This wasn't a simulator. This was the real thing. The co-pilot looked up, stunned to see a child. He was sweating, his hands gripping the controls, too tight. "What are you doing here?" he asked, shocked. "I told them not to let anyone in." Anya spoke calmly. "I know planes. My dad was a pilot. I've flown simulators. I've seen what you're seeing." The man shook his head. "Kid, this isn't a game. The captain's out cold. I've got warning lights blinking, altitude drift, and the main nav system isn't responding. We've lost comms, and I'm trying to fly blind." Anya took a step closer, careful not to touch anything yet. "I can help," she said again, softer this time. The co-pilot stared at her like he couldn't believe what he was hearing. He looked back at the controls. His hands were shaking. His voice cracked. "I don't know if I can do this alone," he whispered. Anya gently stepped into the empty seat beside him, the captain's seat. She sat down slowly, her eyes scanning the panels just like her father had taught her. "Tell me what's working," she asked. "What's dead?" The co-pilot blinked at her. You really know this?" "Start talking," she replied. And so he did. For the next 2 minutes, they exchanged words faster than most adults could follow. He explained what controls still responded, which screens had gone blank, how the autopilot shut off suddenly and wouldn't come back on. Anya listened carefully, asking short, specific questions. Then her fingers moved, slightly hovering over a set of backup switches. "These are still hot," she said. "If we reroute through the secondary panel, we can stabilize the yaw drift manually." The co-pilot looked stunned. "That's what I was thinking, but I wasn't sure." "Then let's try it together," she said. She flipped one switch. He followed with the next. The plane steadied slightly, not perfect but better. Behind them, people still panicked. But inside the cockpit, a strange calm started to return. Enya's eyes moved from the altimeter to the artificial horizon. Then the radio. "Bunitu try comes again," she said. "Ground control has to know where we are." The co-pilot nodded. He pressed a few buttons. "Static?" No voice. Anya reached across gently, tapping a small knob that her father once showed her. Sometimes you have to rescan the frequency manually, she said. He followed her lead. Then, through the speaker, a faint voice. Flight to 17. This is Control Tower, do you read? The co-pilot nearly cried. Yes. This is Flight to 17. We've had an emergency. Captain unconscious? Multiple systems failing, but aircraft is currently stable. Request immediate instructions. Anya leaned into the mic. Request alternate landing route. Current destination unreachable due to system faults. The voice on the other end paused. Who just spoke? Anya didn't reply. The co-pilot stepped in quickly. That was assistance from someone on board. We're handling it. Please advise. The voice returned. Understood. Weather at your destination has worsened. Visibility near zero. Diverting you to backup airstrip runway 32 at Greenfield Airport. You'll need to descend and adjust heading to... Anya quickly noted it down. Course correction 205, she said. Descending to 12,000 feet. The co-pilot followed her callouts like she was his captain. Together, they moved in sync. Outside, clouds thickened, the sun dipped, lower thunder rumbled somewhere in the distance. But inside that tight metal space, a young girl and a frightened man worked together like they'd done this 100 times. Suddenly, another warning light blinked red. Fuel. Anya's heart skipped. We're burning too fast, she said. Leak, the co-pilot checked. No leak, but we lost reserve backup when the systems failed. We have enough to land by... No second try. Then we have to get it right the first time, Anya said quietly. She turned toward him. You need to go check on the captain. Make sure he's breathing. I'll manage this. The co-pilot hesitated. You sure? I'm sure, she said. Go. He nodded and stepped out. Anya was alone in the cockpit. Her hands rested on the yoke. Her heart beat fast, but her face stayed calm, just like her father used to look. She closed her eyes for a moment. Help me, she whispered. Not to anyone she could see, but someone she still felt. Then she opened her eyes and adjusted their heading. Below them, the clouds parted slightly, a brief glimpse of ground, trees, a road, then gone again. In the cabin, passengers were calming slightly. A stewardess explained that they had made contact with the control tower, that help was coming. Some cried with relief. Others just held their loved ones tighter. No one knew exactly what was happening up front. No one knew it was a girl, 13, who was keeping them in the air. Anya called back to the tower. Approach confirmed, requesting wind speed and final clearance. Winds 15 knots southwest, came the reply. You're cleared for emergency approach. Good luck, pilot. She stared out into the storm ahead. Luck helps, she whispered, but she knew she'd need more than that. The co-pilot returned moments later. Captain's stable but unconscious. Pulse is weak. Medical help needed. On landing, Anya nodded. Let's finish this first. Together, they began descent. The plane rocked harder now. Wind hit the wings. Rain battered the nose. Lights flickered again, but the plane kept going. Landing gear, Anya said. Engage. The co-pilot pulled the lever. The gear clunked into place. Flaps, she said. He adjusted them. Speed, 230, he replied. Reduced to 1 knot. He obeyed. The ground came closer. Trees, lights, a runway appeared in the distance. Hold it steady, she whispered. The co-pilot nodded. Almost there, he said. You've got this. Anya felt her fingers tighten on the yoke. Her breathing slowed. The locket around her neck glowed softly from the cockpit light. Her father's photo smiled inside it. Now, she said. Bring it down. The wheels hit the runway. The plane bounced once. Screams erupted from the back. The second bounce was harder. Anya adjusted the angle. Brake, she said. The co-pilot hit the brakes. The plane skidded, tires screeched. Sparks flew. The wing clipped a light pole. A loud bang. The plane swerved. For a second it felt like it would flip, then it stopped. Dead silence. No one moved. Then cheers, cries, laughter, relief. Anya sat still, her hands still on the controls. Her chest rose and fell with heavy breaths. The co-pilot looked at her like she was a ghost. How did you do that? He whispered. Anya looked straight ahead. I just remembered, she said. What my father taught me. The emergency doors opened. Passengers exited in a rush. Medics rushed aboard. Crew members stared at her with disbelief. One stewardess whispered, She's the one. She saved us. A firefighter entered the cockpit and knelt beside her. You okay, sweetheart? She nodded. Yes, sir. What's your name, Anya? He looked at her for a long time. Then he said, You were the pilot today, weren't you? She didn't answer. She just stood up, locket in hand, and walked out of the cockpit just as calm as she had walked in. But as she stepped into the aisle, something unexpected happened. The passengers, one by one, began to clap. Some stood, others whispered her name. It was the girl, someone said. She saved us. The applause grew louder. Anya blinked, surprised. She had never been the center of attention, never wanted to be, but today, she had earned it, not with a loud voice, not with power, but with quiet courage and a memory that wouldn't let her give up. As she walked toward the exit, the co-pilot whispered behind her, You weren't just brave, you were better than me. Anya turned around and smiled. I wasn't better, she said. I just believed him when he said I could fly. Then she stepped off the plane into the cool night air, the flashing lights of emergency crews, and the stunned faces of the world that would soon know who she was. But for now, she just wanted one thing: to sit quietly, look up at the stars, and whisper, "I did it, Dad." Behind her, a reporter held a camera. "A child saved a plane," she said. "But how? Who is she?" The answer would come, but not tonight. Tonight was just the beginning. The lights from the ambulance flashed across Enya's face as she sat quietly on the edge of the runway, wrapped in a silver emergency blanket. Her hands were still shaking, but she hid them under the blanket. Around her, chaos was turning into order. The passengers were being led away, checked for injuries, comforted by rescue teams. Reporters were already gathering, their cameras flashing like thunder in the dark. Some people whispered her name, others pointed, but Anya kept her eyes low. She didn't want attention. Not yet. Not while her heart still raced. The co-pilot stood nearby, watching her silently. He had given a full report to the airport authorities and then refused medical attention until they made sure Anya was okay. The captain was being carried out on a stretcher, oxygen mask over his face. He was breathing, but still unconscious. The doctor nodded as they wheeled him into the ambulance. "He's stable." "Lucky," the medic muttered. "Very lucky." The airport manager, a tall man with a thick mustache and a suit that didn't fit the emergency atmosphere, approached Anya with a strange mix of confusion and awe on his face. "You're the girl, right? The one who flew the plane?" Anya nodded slowly. The man scratched his head. How is this possible?" Anya didn't answer. She just looked down at the necklace in her hand and said softly, "My dad taught me. He was a pilot." The man stared at her like she was a miracle. Then, turning to the rescue workers, he said, "Get her out of here before the reporters tear her apart." They tried, but it was too late. Reporters ran toward her. Miss, did you really land the plane? What's your name? How old are you? Were you scared?" Anya stood up quietly. "I want to call my grandmother," she said to a nurse. "Please." The nurse nodded and led her away through the crowd. Cameras kept flashing. The world had already started talking. Anya didn't know yet, but videos were being uploaded. Passengers had recorded her walking into the cockpit. Some had filmed the landing through their windows. News channels had picked up the emergency signal. The world was waking up to a story that would go viral in hours. A young girl, a broken plane, a miracle at 30,000 feet. But for Anya, it was still personal, still private. She sat inside the airport's emergency lounge, sipping warm tea as the nurse dialed a number on the phone. "It's ringing," she said, holding the receiver to Anya. A familiar voice came through. "Hello, Nani," Anya whispered. There was silence on the other end. "I landed the plane, Nani," she said quietly. There was no one else. The captain passed out. "I helped the co-pilot. We made it." Her grandmother gasped. "Oh my God, are you safe? Are you hurt?" "I'm okay," Anya said. "Just tired." "I'm coming to get you," Nani said firmly. "Right now." Anya smiled faintly. "Okay." As she hung up, the co-pilot entered the room. He had changed into a clean shirt, though his face still looked pale and exhausted. "Hey," he said gently. "I didn't get to thank you properly." Anya looked at him. "You did most of the work." "No," he said. "I did the job, but you made it possible. You saved us, Anya, all of us." She looked down. "I just remembered what my dad showed me." "That's what saved the plane," he replied. "And you stayed calm, more than I was." She didn't know what to say. He sat beside her. "They're going to want to talk to you. The media, the airline, maybe even the government. But if it gets too much, you just tell them no." "I don't want to be famous," she whispered. "I just want to go home." He nodded. "I get that, but I think your life's about to change, whether you like it or not." Enya's phone buzzed. A text from a classmate she hadn't heard from in weeks. "Are you the girl from the news? That's really you." Another message followed. "You're trending everywhere." She turned off the phone. She didn't want the noise right now. All she could think about was her father. What would he have said if he had seen her today? Would he have been proud? Would he have believed she could do it? She remembered his warm voice from years ago. "If anything ever goes wrong in the air, don't panic. The plane listens to confidence. You've got it in you." A tear slipped down her cheek. A man entered the room just then, tall, with sharp eyes and a calm expression. He wore a pilot's uniform with extra badges, a senior captain. He walked up to her and saluted. "You're the one," he said. "The girl who saved Flight 17. Anya stood up slowly. "Yes, sir. Captain Raj Malhotra," he said, extending a hand. "I've been flying for 30 years, and I've never seen anything like this." Anya shook his hand. "I'm not a real pilot." "You flew like one," he said. "The footage? The voice recordings? The landing? It's all real. The Aviation Council already has it, and they're asking questions about you." She looked worried. "Am I in trouble?" "Trouble?" He smiled. "You're about to be honored." Anya blinked. "Honored? For bravery, quick thinking, and saving hundreds of lives." The co-pilot added. "You earned it." She looked down. "I didn't do it for awards." "That's what makes you worthy," the senior captain said. "You're special, Anya, and this country will remember your name." A sudden noise outside drew their attention. More reporters, news vans, the door to the lounge opened, and airport security stepped in. We need to move her through a back exit. The press is getting out of control. The senior captain turned to Anya. Want to go public? Anya paused, then shook her head. Not now. Good choice, he said. Let's keep this quiet for now. As they led her through the back halls of the airport, she passed workers, officers, even other passengers, many of whom paused to stare. Some clapped softly, some whispered blessings. One woman cried and held her hands together like a prayer. They reached a side gate where her grandmother waited in a shawl and slippers, eyes wide with worry. Anya ran into her arms without saying a word. Her grandmother hugged her tight, whispering, "You're safe. That's all that matters." The captain stood back and smiled. "She's strong and smart. You raised her well." Her grandmother wiped her tears. "It wasn't me, it was her father. She carries him with her." Anya looked up. "We can go home now." "Yes," Beta Nani said. "Let's go." As they drove away from the airport, Anya looked back one last time at the runway. Lights, the flashing cameras, and the place where her world had changed. She didn't know what would happen next, but something deep inside told her it wasn't over, not even close. She had stepped into the sky once, and the sky had listened. Now the world would too. But for tonight, she just wanted to rest, to close her eyes, and to dream not of fear, not of planes falling, but of flying high, with her father's voice in her ear, saying, "You did good, Captain." And somewhere in the distance, something was waiting for her. Something bigger. She didn't know yet, but the journey had only just begun. Anya stood frozen as the last bolt of the cockpit door turned with a soft metallic click. The head flight attendant gave her a nervous glance, then slowly pushed the door open. The smell of burnt wires and sweat hit them immediately. Inside, the co-pilot sat slumped in his seat, face pale and hands trembling on the controls. His uniform was soaked with sweat, his head set askew, and his eyes wild when they turned to look at her. "What? Why is she here?" he asked, panicked. "She's just a kid." Anya swallowed hard but kept her chin high. "My name is Anya. I'm not here to hurt anyone. I think I can help." The co-pilot gave a hollow laugh. "Help? You can't even reach the pedals." "I don't need to," she replied quietly, stepping into the cramped cockpit. Her eyes scanned the control panel, lights blinking all over, like a broken Christmas tree. She didn't understand every button, but some of them looked very familiar. She remembered the small private jet her dad used to fly, the simulator he had built in their garage. The lessons that started as games, but turned into serious drills when her father realized how quickly she picked it up. The co-pilot rubbed his face and mumbled. "The captain passed out mid-flight. We hit severe turbulence. I've been trying to keep us stable ever since, but the main navigation system's fried. Autopilot failed. We're flying blind." Anya stepped closer, her eyes fixing on the flickering display. "The altimeter's off," she said. "It's not reading the altitude correctly. You know that?" he asked, surprised. "Yeah. And this warning light means you've got electrical surge in System 3? If we don't reroute power, we'll lose communication entirely." The co-pilot stared at her, stunned. "Who taught you this?" "My dad, he was a pilot." She nodded, her voice soft. "He died in a crash 3 years ago. But before that, he taught me everything." There was a moment of silence between them, broken only by the hum of the damaged plane and the distant sobbing of passengers behind the door. The co-pilot finally looked down at his shaky hands. "I'm not sure I can do this anymore." "I can't. Think straight." Anya placed a hand gently on his shoulder. "Then let me be your co-pilot." He gave her a long look, then slowly nodded. "Okay, but we do this together." She sat down beside him, reaching up to grab the yoke with small, confident hands. "What's our current course?" "We were headed to Delhi, but we're off track. Ground control hasn't responded in 15 minutes. I tried emergency frequency. Nothing." Anya thought hard. "Do we have a map backup? Old-fashioned one in the drawer?" She reached for it, unfolding the paper map carefully. Her eyes darted over the lines, searching for landmarks. "We passed over Rajasthan about 20 minutes ago," she whispered. "We should be near Madhya Pradesh now. If we can angle southeast, we can reach Bhopal airstrip." The co-pilot hesitated. "That's a military zone. It's not open for commercial flights, but it has a runway," she said, "and we're running out of options." He looked at her again this time, not like a kid, but like a fellow pilot. "You're right. Let's do it." Together, they adjusted the controls. Enya's hands moved quickly, guiding the flaps and switches like she'd done it 1,000 times before. The turbulence had slowed, but the controls were still sluggish. Suddenly, a warning light blinked again. "Fuel." The co-pilot cursed. "We've got a leak. One of the tanks is draining fast." "How long?" 30, maybe 40 minutes at this altitude." Anya leaned forward, calculating. "We need to descend slowly to save fuel. But if we go too low, the hills will block our radar, and without radar, we're flying in the dark." Existential. They exchanged another quick glance, then went to work. Every second counted. Back in the cabin, the passengers grew restless. A child began crying. A woman fainted. The flight attendants whispered nervously. They didn't tell anyone that a young girl was now helping steer the aircraft, but somehow, the air felt calmer, like Hope had stepped into the cockpit with her. 10 minutes passed, then 20. They could see a stretch of land in the distance, flat and clear. That could be it, Anya said. The co-pilot peered ahead. That's no commercial airport. Still a runway, she replied. The co-pilot clicked the emergency signal. Again. Static. Then a voice crackled through. Unidentified aircraft? You are in restricted airspace. Identify immediately. The co-pilot grabbed the mic. This is Flight 702 from Jaipur to Delhi. Captain is incapacitated. Navigation failure. We request emergency landing at any available airstrip. Silence. Then repeat that. Did you say a child is co-piloting? Yes, and she's doing a damn good job. More silence. Then, you are clear to attempt. Landing, coordinates transmitted. Good luck. The co-pilot laughed shakily. You just got military clearance. Anya allowed a small smile. Let's not crash and waste it. As they approached, the runway became clearer, long, flat, surrounded by fields. But one problem remained. Landing gear isn't responding, the co-pilot said. Hydraulic pressure is too low. Anya looked at the emergency gear release lever. She hesitated. We can try a manual override. That's risky, so is crashing into a field. He nodded. Do it. She pulled the lever hard. Nothing. She pulled again, and again until with a loud thunk, the gear clicked into place. Got it. The co-pilot whooped. We're going in. They started the descent. Faster than expected. Too fast. The co-pilot struggled with the flaps. It's not slowing enough. Pull up slightly. Use the ailerons, she instructed. He followed her lead. The nose lifted just enough. The plane dropped harder than a smooth landing should, but it hit the ground in one piece. The tires screamed. Smoke rose, but they stayed upright. The aircraft slid across the runway, finally grinding to a stop near the edge. Silence. Then cheers. People screamed, cried, clapped. The door to the cockpit opened. The head flight attendant stared at them, stunned. Are we, safe? The co-pilot looked at Anya, who was breathing hard but steady. Thanks to her? Yes. Emergency crews rushed in. Anya stepped out of the cockpit, legs shaking. Reporters, cameras, flashing lights all blurred as she walked down the steps, still gripping her mother's necklace. A senior officer approached. A stern-looking man with medals on his chest. He studied Anya for a long time, then he saluted. Captain Anya, permission to shake the hand of the bravest girl I've ever heard about. She blinked, then reached out her hand. The officer gripped it firmly. You saved 178 lives tonight. You're no ordinary child. Anya finally allowed herself to smile, though tears ran freely down her cheeks. Behind her, the passengers had gathered. Some clapped. Others simply watched her in awe. For a moment, the entire airstrip stood still, watching a girl who had done the impossible. The officer turned to the crowd. Let it be known today, a pilot was born at 30,000 feet. Cameras flashed, reporters surged forward. But Anya just looked up at the sky, whispering softly, Did you see that? Papa, I flew. And somewhere, she believed he had. The minutes felt like hours. Anya gripped the yoke with sweaty hands, her fingers trembling, even though the cockpit's temperature was cool. The headset crackled again. Flight 72 kilo. Please respond. Confirm altitude and heading. She cleared her throat, trying to find her voice. Flight 72 kilo, altitude 28,000 feet. Heading 070. Cabin is stable. We're trying to maintain course. The air traffic controller's voice paused for a second too. Long, who's speaking? Identify yourself. You don't sound like Captain Raoul. Anya's heart beat faster. Should she lie? Would telling the truth get her in trouble? Or worse, create panic? This is Anya Royale. I'm not the captain. I'm his daughter. A gasp could be heard even over the radio. Please, repeat. Anya pressed the button harder, as if more pressure would give her more courage. I said, this is Anya Royale, the captain, my father. He collapsed. So did the co-pilot. There's no one else in the cockpit. I'm 13, but I know how to fly. I've trained on a simulator. Please, just tell me what to do. Silence again. Anya imagined the entire control tower freezing in disbelief. Her mother sat in the co-pilot's seat, watching her with tear-filled eyes, but saying nothing. She knew speaking might break the delicate balance holding Anya together. Finally, the controller responded. Understood. Anya, we are activating emergency aviation protocol. Stay calm. We are here with you. We'll talk you through everything. Copy, Anya whispered, voice barely audible. She couldn't believe it. She was flying a commercial aircraft, 238 lives, on board because she was the only one left conscious in the cockpit. Her brain felt like it was spinning, but her hands were steady, like Dad's. Behind her, the flight attendant Mira entered with wet eyes and a clipboard shaking in her hands. We've checked the passengers, she said, voice low. More are fainting. We think it's something in the air system. Maybe some chemical or malfunction. Anya blinked. Can you isolate the ventilation? She asked, surprising even. Herself, Mira looked confused. My dad showed me once, Anya said, moving her fingers to the panel. If there's a contaminant leak, we can reroute airflow through the auxiliary purifier. I think. She flipped a switch and pushed the dials forward. The vents made a faint hissing sound, like the plane had just sighed in relief. In a few minutes, Mira returned. Anya, it's working. People are starting to wake up. Anya let out a shaky breath, but the danger wasn't over. Not even close. The storm ahead was growing. Thunder rolled in the distance. Lightning flashed like veins across the sky, and the navigation display showed that Flight 72 Kilo was heading straight into it. Anya, the voice came through again, firm but calm. You need to descend to 18,000 feet to avoid turbulence. Begin slow descent. She adjusted the throttle and pulled back slightly. The aircraft responded, hesitant, heavy but alive. As it began to drop, the wind began to push harder. Suddenly, alarms blared. A red light flashed on the panel. Autopilot fail. What's happening? Anya cried. You're flying manual now, the controller said. Just follow our instructions. Keep your nose level, hands on the yoke, feet on the rudder. Anya gritted her teeth. Her fingers burned. Her eyes stung with sweat. But she kept going. They passed through the first layer of clouds. Rain splashed against the windshield like bullets. The plane shook. A baby cried somewhere in the cabin. A man vomited. Overhead bins popped open. Oxygen masks swung from the ceiling, and, still, she flew. Every time the plane dipped, she fought back. Every time the wings tilted, she corrected. The radio cracked with static. Then the worst happened. The right engine coughed. It sputtered, and it died. Anya screamed as the aircraft tilted violently to one side. Her mother grabbed the side of the chair, terrified but trying to stay strong. Anya, listen to me, came the controller's voice. You've lost engine 2. You can still fly with one engine, but you must stabilize now, or you will enter a stall. I don't know how, Anya cried. Yes, you do, came another voice, a deeper one, familiar. She looked up on the auxiliary speaker. Someone had connected the emergency advisory line. It was her old simulator trainer, Colonel Dev. Anya, he said calmly. Remember what I told you? Planes are like scared horses. If you panic, they panic. But if you stay calm, they'll follow. She nodded. Ease the rudder. Level the wings. Pull up just enough, not too much. That's it. Just like the simulator. She followed his words. Slowly, carefully, the aircraft began to steady. The screams in the cabin softened. The shaking lessened. The altimeter settled at 16,800 feet. Anya, the controller said, voice filled with emotion now. You've just avoided a stall. Do you understand what you've done? She didn't? Not really. All she knew was that her arms were numb. Her heart was in her throat, and yet, she was still in control. Where do I land? She asked. Nearest emergency strip is 150 miles southeast, but your fuel levels are low. You need to make a decision. I think we can make it, she said. You sure? No, Anya whispered. But I'm not going to stop now. As she flew through the final stretch, the skies began to open. Patches of blue peeked through the storm. The sun, hiding behind clouds for hours, finally broke through. She could see land, mountains, end, like a gift-on airstrip. The emergency crew had gathered. Ambulances lined the sides. Fire trucks waited. Spotlights were focused on the runway. Cameras from news choppers circled the skies. Flight 72 Kilo, you are cleared to land. Anya repeated the steps in her head. Flaps down. Gear down. Keep the nose level. Watch your speed. She looked at her mother. Hold on, she said. The runway approached fast. Too fast. She eased the throttle. The wheels hit the tarmac hard. The plane bounced once twice. Then it settled. Brakes. Reverse. Thrusters. The aircraft slowed. It stopped. There was silence, then cheering from the cabin, from the runway, from the control tower. The little girl who wasn't supposed to be in the cockpit had just done the impossible. Her mother pulled her into her arms, sobbing. Rescue teams rushed in. Paramedics checked passengers, people wept, strangers hugged, and Anya sat quietly in the pilot's seat, too tired to move, too overwhelmed to speak. Outside, as the sun rose higher, a camera zoomed in through the cockpit window and captured the face of a 13-year-old girl who had just flown through a storm, battled fate, and landed hope, not with experience, but with heart. And now the whole world wanted to know, who was this girl? But Anya already knew the only answer that mattered. She was her father's daughter, and she didn't wait for permission to save lives. Anya's hands were tight on the controls. The storm was finally behind them, but a new danger had taken its place. The plane was running out of fuel. The warning light flashed red again. Harris looked worried. We have 15 minutes left, before we're dry. Anya didn't answer right away. She was thinking fast. We're too far from any commercial airport, Harris said. The closest is more than 300 miles. What about the old airstrip? Anya asked. The military one. Yes, the one southwest, around 100 miles from here. Harris hesitated. That place is abandoned. No control tower, no working lights, no updates. We don't even know if the runway is clear. Anya didn't blink. It's better than crashing in the sea. She turned the plane slightly southwest. Harris stared at her. You're serious? Completely, she said. The passengers didn't know anything yet. The cabin was calmer now. Some were praying. Some were sleeping. With fear on their faces, a mother rocked her crying baby. A soldier sat quietly, holding a photo of his daughter. Anya couldn't see them, but she could feel them. Every life on that plane was depending on her. Okay, Harris said. I'll try to contact anyone on emergency frequencies. Anya nodded. She checked the speed, still good. Altitude. Fuel falling fast. The clock was ticking. 8 minutes now. Mayday, Mayday, Harris said over the radio. This is Flight 308. We need emergency landing clearance. Anyone reading this? Silence. Nothing came back. Try again, Anya said. Don't stop. He did, again and again. But still no voice, no reply, just static. No one's there, he whispered. We're alone. We're not alone, Anya said softly. We have each other. She took a deep breath and focused on the small radar screen. The airstrip was close now. Maybe 20 miles away. But they had only 6 minutes of fuel. Her heart was beating fast. We're not going to make it, Harris said under his breath. Yes, we are, Anya replied, louder this time. We have to. She remembered her father's words. Don't look at the fear. Look at the path. Anya pushed the plane to a lower altitude to save fuel. Descending to 3,000 feet, she announced. Landing gear, get ready. Harris didn't argue. He followed her lead. Anya wiped sweat from her forehead. She could feel the tension in her back and neck. Her fingers were tired, but she didn't let go of the controls. Outside the window, land appeared. Trees, dry fields, and finally, a long narrow line the runway. It was cracked, old, and full of dust, but it was there. I see it, Anya said. That's our way down. No lights, no guidance. Harris reminded her. It's just us and the ground. We'll land manually, Anya said. Slow and steady. The engines started coughing. The fuel gauge was almost empty. We have 3 minutes, Harris said. Anya nodded. Let's go. She lowered the flaps, adjusted the throttle. The plane was now descending slowly. The passengers were silent. Some began whispering prayers. A man held his wife's hand and didn't let go. The soldier closed his eyes. The baby had stopped crying. Everyone knew something was happening, something big, but no one screamed. It was as if they all trusted the unknown voice guiding them now. The ground came closer. 2,000 feet. 1,000. The runway looked closer and shorter. We have to land perfectly, Harris said. There's no room for mistakes. I know, Anya replied. We'll do this together. The plane now approached the edge of the runway. Landing, gear down, Anya said. There was a small sound as the wheels lowered. Harris checked. Gears down. Flaps are ready. Anya kept her hands steady. She aligned the nose of the plane with the runway. The wind was strong. The plane swayed a little. Careful, Harris said. Too much left, Anya corrected. I see it. 500 feet. 400. The engine started coughing harder. Any moment now, she said. The plane dipped. The runway rushed up to meet them. Anya pulled the nose slightly up. Now, she whispered. The wheels touched the ground, hard but safe. The plane bounced once, then rolled forward. The brakes hissed loudly. Smoke rose from the tires. The passengers held on to their seats. Harris shouted, Brakes, brakes. Anya slammed her foot. Down on the pedal. The plane slowed. It kept moving, closer to the end of the runway. Come on, Anya said. The plane finally stopped just 50 feet before the edge. Silence, not a single sound. Then someone clapped. Another followed. And suddenly the entire cabin exploded with cheers. People were crying, clapping, hugging strangers. The mother kissed her baby. The soldier smiled and looked at the sky. Anya leaned back in her seat. She closed her eyes. Harris looked at her. You just saved us all. She didn't speak. Her hands were shaking. Her eyes were full of tears. I did what I had to. Outside, the runway was empty. Not a soul in sight. No airport crew, no lights. Just an old forgotten piece of land. We'll have to wait for rescue, Harris said. But we're alive. That's what matters. Anya nodded. She looked out the window at the sky. It was pink now. The sun was rising. For a moment she felt like her father was watching her. You'd be proud, Papa, she whispered. Then she turned and saw something strange. A vehicle, a jeep, far at the edge of the runway, coming toward them. Harris saw it too. Who could that be? He asked. Anya didn't answer. She stared. At the vehicle, as it came closer, duster rose behind its wheels. The plane was safe, but the story was not over, not yet. As the jeep reached the nose of the plane and stopped, a man stepped out. He was wearing an old military uniform. He looked straight at the cockpit window, then raised his hand in a salute. Anya's eyes widened. That's impossible, she whispered. I know that uniform. My father wore one just like it. Who was the man? How did he know they were landing here? And what secrets did this old airstrip still hide? The passengers had been saved. But Anya was about to find out that the sky was not the only place filled with mystery. The ground held its own ghost sand. Some were waiting for her. The old military airstrip was still far away, and fuel was getting lower every minute. Anya sat straight in the pilot's seat. Harris, sitting beside her, looked worried. We may not make it, he said softly, but Anya didn't lose hope. We will, she said with calm strength. She looked ahead and adjusted the controls carefully. We have to. Down below, the land was empty desert, like mountains. No cities, no airports, just old air and dry land. There was no help in sight. Inside the cabin, passengers were quiet. They knew something was wrong now. The plane wasn't flying toward the original destination. A mother was crying softly, holding her baby close. An old man was praying. A young boy was whispering to his sister, "Are we going to crash?" But the crew remained calm. "We're making an emergency landing," the head stewardess announced gently. "Please stay seated with your seatbelts fastened." Meanwhile, in the cockpit, a new problem appeared. "We've lost communication," Harris said, pressing the radio button. No signal. Anya checked again. She tried to contact the airbase or any nearby control tower. Nothing, just static. "We're completely alone," Harris whispered. Anya swallowed hard. "Then we'll land alone." Suddenly, something strange happened. A red light on the right side of the control panel started blinking. Harris leaned forward. "That's the engine sensor." Then came a new sound like coughing. The right engine sputtered. Boom. Dot. A loud noise echoed through the plane. The right engine shut down. Passengers screamed. The plane tilted to the side. The cabin shook. Luggage bins opened and things fell out. Enya's hands flew to the controls. "Hold tight," she shouted. "I'm leveling it." She adjusted the left engine power, pulled the rudder, and slowly brought the plane back to balance. But the warning lights kept flashing. The plane was now flying on just one engine. Harris turned pale. "At this weight, we can't fly much longer on one engine." Anya didn't blink. "How far to the airstrip?" 30 miles, he answered. Anya bit her lip. Her heart was beating fast, but her mind was focused. "We're going to make it." Then, finally, in the distance, they saw it. The abandoned airstrip. It was cracked and dusty. Weeds had grown between the runway lines. There were no lights, no signs of life, just an old concrete strip, alone in the desert. Harris looked through the binoculars. No tower, no crew, no equipment. "It's just dead." But to Anya, it was hope. "Get ready to land," she said. "Gear down," Harris announced. Landing configuration set. Anya lowered the plane. The ground got closer. Dust rose as the plane came down. The passengers held hands. The little boy shut his eyes tight. Come on, Anya whispered. But just as they were about to touch down, a sudden wind pushed the plane sideways. "Crosswind," Harris yelled. The plane swerved. One wheel touched the ground, then bounced. Anya fought the controls. She pressed the rudder, pulled the nose up slightly, then down again. Boom. That's time the wheels hit. Hard. Screech. The tires screamed on the concrete. The plane shook wildly but stayed on the runway. Dust covered the windows. Anya held the brake levers tight. The whole aircraft slid, bounced again, then slowed down inch by inch. Until finally silence. The plane had stopped. The passengers were frozen. No one spoke, no one moved. Then one by one, they started clapping, then cheering, then crying. Anya sat back in her seat. Her hands were shaking. Tears filled her eyes, but she smiled. "You did it?" Harris said quietly. "No," she replied. "We did." As the crew opened the doors, the hot desert air rushed in. People walked out slowly, some barefoot, some crying, some holding hands. One mother kissed the ground. But then, a serious face appeared. A tall man in uniform came toward the aircraft. He was from a nearby base. They had seen the plane on radar, even though no communication came. "Who was flying this?" officer asked. People pointed at Anya. The man stared at her, confused. "She's just a kid. She's the one who saved us," someone replied. The officer looked stunned. "We'll need to report this immediately." But as the officer walked away to make the call, Anya stood near the wing, looking at the sunset. She had landed a giant jet plane. At 13 years old. Yet, in that moment, she felt both small and powerful. But this wasn't the end. Back in the city, news of the emergency landing had reached the media, and Anya's face was about to go viral. Anya sat under the wing of the plane, her arms around her knees. Her eyes were fixed on the quiet desert around her. The sun had gone down, and the cold air had started creeping in. Most of the passengers were sitting together on blankets outside. The plane, a rescue helicopter, had not arrived yet, but the officer from the small military outpost nearby had sent trucks with water and supplies. Someone brought her a bottle of water. She looked up. It was Harris. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded slowly. "Just tired." "You saved 192 people," Harris said with deep respect, "and you didn't panic. Not even once." Anya gave a small smile. "I did panic, just not on the outside." He sat next to her. "That takes real strength." Behind them, the sound of a large vehicle rumbled. It was a military truck. Men and women in uniform jumped down. Some started helping the passengers. Others walked toward the cockpit, taking pictures. Speaking into radios, a high-ranking officer came forward, a tall woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. Her name tag read, General Monroe. She looked directly at Anya. "You were the one in command?" she asked. Anya stood up slowly. "Yes, ma'am." General Monroe stared at her for a moment. "You flew a Boeing 787 with no training? In a crisis? With one engine?" "Yes, ma'am," Anya answered quietly. The general didn't speak for a long moment. Then she gave a slow nod. You've done something extraordinary. There will be questions. A lot of them. Harris stepped forward. She had help. I was with her. I guided her. You didn't land the plane, Monroe replied. She did. Just then, one of the officers handed Monroe a tablet. It was playing a video. The plane's cockpit recording. Enya's voice, calm and focused, echoed through the tiny speaker. It had already been sent to the military command center. Monroe watched it quietly. She didn't show emotion, but when it ended, she looked back at Anya, this time with something different in her eyes. Respect. We'll take everyone to the nearest city, Monroe said. There will be press and reporters. You need to be prepared. Anya's stomach twisted. Press. Your name is already spreading, Monroe added, all over the internet. Someone on the flight filmed the landing from their seat. It's been uploaded. Millions are watching it. Anya blinked. Millions. At that very moment, far away in New York City, Anya's parents were sitting in their living room, both crying. The news channel on the screen was showing their daughter's face. The headline read, 13-year-old girl lands passenger plane after mid-air emergency. Reporters were outside their house. Neighbors were knocking on the door. The whole world wanted to know who was Anya Singh. Back in the desert, the passengers were being helped into the trucks. A mother came up to Anya and hugged her tightly. You saved my baby, she whispered. Then came the old man who had been praying. He bowed his head. I've flown all my life. I've never seen anything like what you did. And then the little boy who had been scared. He walked up slowly, holding his sister's hand. Are you a superhero? Anya smiled. No, I'm just a girl who didn't want to crash. The boy looked up at her with wide eyes. Can I be like you? You can be even better, she said. The ride to the city was long. Anya sat next to Harris in the back of the truck. Number one spoke much. They were still trying to believe it really happened. When they arrived at the airport in the nearby city, there were flashing lights. Reporters, microphones and cameras everywhere. As soon as Anya stepped out of the truck, voices shouted, Is she the girl who landed the plane? Is it true she has no pilot license? What's her name? People ran forward with cameras. Police held them back. A woman in a navy blue suit stepped forward. I'm from the Aviation Safety Board, she said. We'll protect her from the press, but we need to talk. Anya was taken into a quiet room at the airport. Her hands were still shaking. She sat across from the woman, who introduced herself as Maya Jensen, lead investigator. I've watched the footage, Maya said. You followed correct procedure. You kept calm. You landed a plane with one engine on an abandoned runway. Anya nodded, unsure of what to say. Maya leaned forward. Anya ... How do you know so much about flying? My dad used to be a pilot, she said softly. He taught me everything. I practiced on simulators every day. Maya smiled. You might have just changed aviation history. Anya looked up. Am I in trouble? Maya shook her head. No, but we need to be careful. You're young, and the world is watching. Suddenly the door opened. A man with a serious face stepped in. CNN is here, and BBC. They're asking for a press statement. Anya stood up. I don't want to be famous. You're not just famous, the man said. You're a hero. Anya looked down. I'm not a hero. I just didn't want anyone to die. Maya Jensen touched her shoulder. That's exactly why you are one. Later that night, Anya was taken to a hotel, away from the reporters. Her parents had flown in. The moment they saw her, her mother ran to her and held her tight. I thought I lost you. Her mom cried. You didn't, Anya whispered. I'm right here. Her father was speechless. He simply placed his hand on her head and nodded, tears running down his cheeks. The room was filled with warmth, family, and the soft hum of the news playing on TV. Her name was on every channel. But deep inside, Anya felt something different. Not proud, not excited, just ... changed. Something had shifted inside her. Tomorrow, the whole world would want to talk to her. Tomorrow, she would face cameras, questions, and maybe even awards. But tonight she was just a little girl who had done the impossible, and she knew this was only the beginning. Anya opened her eyes to sunlight streaming into the hotel room. For a moment, she forgot where she was. The room was too quiet, too clean. No sound of plane engines, no passengers crying, no emergency alarms, just silence. Then she remembered everything. The flight, the broken cockpit, the controls in her hands. The moment the wheels touched the runway, the cheers, the faces, the cameras. She sat up slowly. Her mom was asleep in the chair nearby, still in the same clothes from last night. Her father was standing by the window, arms crossed, staring at the morning traffic below. When he saw her, awake, he smiled gently. Good morning, Captain. Anya made a face. Don't call me that. You earned it, he said. Her mom stirred. Baby, you okay? Anya nodded, but inside, she wasn't sure. There was a knock at the door. Her father opened it. A hotel staff member stood there with a note. This was sent for Miss Anya Singh. He handed it over carefully, as if it were something sacred. Anya opened it. It was a handwritten message on simple white paper. To Anya Singh, I would like to personally thank you for your incredible courage and leadership during Flight 204. We would be honored if you and your family joined us today at the Presidential Hall for a special recognition ceremony. President of the United States. Anya read the note 3 times. The president wanted to meet her. She looked up. What is happening? Her mom hugged her. The world saw who you really are. No, they didn't, Anya whispered. They just saw what happened. They don't know me. Before they could say more, the phone in the room rang. It was the government liaison. A car would be sent in an hour. Press was not allowed. It would be a private visit, just her and her parents. Anya dressed in the nicest clothes. She had plain navy blue pants, a white shirt, and a simple ponytail. She didn't want makeup or fancy shoes. She didn't feel like a star. She felt tired. When the black car arrived, she stepped in quietly. Her parents sat beside her. Outside, the roads were cleared. Police cars drove ahead and behind them. Inside, the car. Anya stared out the window. The city looked normal. People walking, traffic moving, life happening. No one knew that inside this vehicle sat the girl who had saved 192 lives just 2 days ago. At the presidential hall, security guards stood tall in dark uniforms. They saluted her as she walked in. One opened a large wooden door, and a soft voice said, "He's ready." Anya walked in. The president stood near the center of the room, dressed in a black suit. He turned and smiled warmly. Anya, she nodded. "Sir, you saved a full flight of passengers, with no training, no support, just courage." "I didn't want to crash," she said softly. The president chuckled. "That's a very good reason." Then he turned serious. "You've become a symbol overnight. Kids look up to you. Parents are crying with relief. Pilots are stunned, and I'm just proud to share the same country as you." Anya didn't know what to say. He handed her a medal. It was heavy in gold, with a blue ribbon. Around the edge, it read, "For extraordinary bravery, civilian honor. We don't usually give this to people your age," he said. "But today, you've made history." Cameras flashed, but only official ones. A few pictures, a short video. It wasn't for media. It was for record. After the ceremony, they offered lunch, but Anya asked if she could skip it. She was too nervous, too overwhelmed. Back at the hotel, her dad turned on the news. The world was buzzing. There were interviews with passengers from the flight, people sharing stories of how calm she was, how safe she made them feel. One man said, "She spoke like a real captain, like she had done this before." A woman added, "She looked like a kid, but in that moment, she was our hero." The phone didn't stop ringing. There were requests from TV shows. News anchors wanted exclusive interviews. A famous movie director even sent a message, asking if he could make a film about her. Her mom tried to keep her away from it all, but Anya was still processing everything. Late that night, she sneaked out onto the hotel balcony. The city lights sparkled below. She sat on a chair, pulled her knees up, and wrapped her arms around them. She didn't feel brave. She didn't feel like a hero. She felt small. She missed her room, her books, her old life, her dad's simulator. In the garage, everything that felt normal. Suddenly, her phone buzzed. A text message from a number she didn't know. "Hi, I was on the flight. I was the girl crying with the violin. I just wanted to say thank you. You saved me. My name is Leela. If you ever want to talk, I'm here." Anya stared at the message. Then she replied, "Hi Leela, thank you. I remember you. I was scared too." A few seconds later, Leela sent back, "You didn't look scared. You looked strong." Anya smiled for the first time that day. The next morning, they returned home. But home was no longer the same. There were people outside, with signs, "We love Anya, our hero, flying girl." Her school principal called and asked if she could come in to speak to the students. At first, she said no, but then, she changed her mind at the school assembly. She stood in front of hundreds of students. She looked nervous. She held the microphone tightly. "I didn't want to be up here today," she began. "I didn't want cameras or attention. I'm not used to it. I'm just a normal girl who learned how to fly on a computer. I never thought I'd have to do it for real." The hall was silent. I wasn't brave. I was terrified, but I knew people were counting on me. So I tried. That's all I did. I tried. A few students had tears in their eyes. Then she said something that surprised even her parents. "One day, I want to become a real pilot. Not just in games or simulators, but in real life." The entire hall exploded with cheers. That night, her father gave her a small gift. A box. Inside was a real pilot's logbook. Brand new. First page blank. He pointed to it. "Your first real flight, logged and signed." Anya looked at him. "But I'm not old enough to start yet." He smiled. "But one day you will be. And when that day comes, they'll already know your name." Anya opened the logbook and wrote, "Flight 200 for July 24th, emergency landing, Boeing 787 single engine, 192 souls on board, successful landing, 0 injuries, pilot Anya Singh, age 13, she paused, then smiled and signed it. The sky had called her once, and she had answered. But deep inside, she knew something. The sky wasn't done with her yet. Anya sat in the small room just beside the hospital ward. Her eyes were red from crying. She was wearing an oversized hoodie and had her hands wrapped around a cup of untouched coffee. Outside the glass window, Captain Larson was lying on a hospital bed. breathing with the help of machines. He hadn't woken up yet. Doctors said he was stable, but unconscious. Anya stared at him silently. In her heart, she wanted him to wake up and say, "You did good, kid." But all she heard was the quiet beep of the machines. It was strange. She had just saved an entire airplane, but she didn't feel like a hero. She felt tired, small, and lost. Just then, the door opened. Her mother walked in with tired eyes but a warm smile. She sat beside Anya and placed a hand on her shoulder. "They want to talk to you," her mom whispered. Anya looked up at the authorities, aviation people, and someone from the news. Anya shook her head. "I don't want to talk to anyone, I know," her mom said gently. "But they're here to say thank you." Anya closed her eyes for a moment. Her heart was still heavy. She wasn't sure why. Maybe it was because she had done something big, but no one else could really understand how hard it was, how scared she had been, how alone she had felt inside that cockpit. But then, she thought about the little girl who gave her a thumbs up after landing, the crying man who hugged his wife. On the runway, the flight attendant who whispered, "You were our angel." And slowly, Anya nodded. She stood up and walked out of the room. The hallway was full of reporters and camera crews. Flashes went off as soon as she appeared. Her mom held her hand tight. A tall man in uniform came forward. He was the head of the National Aviation Board. He bent down slightly and looked her in the eyes. "Anya, on behalf of everyone in aviation and this entire country, thank you. What you did was nothing short of a miracle." Anya stayed quiet. He continued, "We reviewed the flight data. You avoided the storm, safely landed with no guidance, and even saved fuel by adjusting descent manually. You made decisions better than many trained pilots." Anya's lips trembled. She finally spoke. "I was just trying to help. I didn't want anyone to die." The man nodded. "And because of you, no one did." Just then, Harris appeared from the side. He was wearing a neck brace and had stitches above his eyebrow, but his eyes were bright. "I told them everything," he said. "You flew that plane. You kept calm. You saved us." Anya looked down. "I didn't mean to take control. I just—" Harris raised his hand gently. "No, you earned the controls. I only followed your lead." Reporters now pushed forward. "Anya, do you want to become a pilot? How did it feel when you landed? Were you scared?" Anya replied slowly. "I wasn't just scared. I was terrified, but I remembered my dad. He used to say, 'Don't run from fear. Learn from it.'" Her voice cracked a little. A woman in the crowd asked, "What would you say to other girls who are told they're too young or too small to make a difference?" Anya looked up. Her eyes were shining. "They're not too small. The world just hasn't seen how big their courage is yet." Everyone clapped. Some even had tears in their eyes. Later that night, the news ran with headlines like 13 Hero saves plane and girl pilot changes history. But Anya wasn't watching TV. She was sitting by Captain Larson's bed again, still waiting, still hoping. Hours passed. Nurses came and went. Her mom had fallen asleep in a chair. It was almost midnight when something changed. Anya heard a soft groan. She looked up sharply. Captain Larson's eyes fluttered. Then slowly they opened. Anya gasped. "Captain." He looked around weakly, confused. Then his eyes landed on her, and he smiled, faintly, but it was real. "You did it," he whispered. "You really did it." Anya's eyes filled with tears. "You're awake." He nodded very slowly. "How's everyone?" "Safe. We all made it." A long pause. Then he said, "I knew you had it in you." That was all she needed. Anya leaned forward and rested her head gently beside his arm. For the first time since the landing, she cried not from fear, not from pressure, but from relief. The next morning, the airport was filled with passengers trying to rebook flights. But one section had been turned into a special event. A banner. "Read Welcome Home. Flight 204 Heroes." Families were reunited. Hugs, smiles, and stories were shared. Anya arrived quietly, holding her mom's hand. People began to clap as they saw her. One by one, passengers came forward. A man with his daughter, a couple who had just married, an old woman with flowers. Each said thank you. Some hugged her, some cried. She saw the same girl again, one who had smiled at her from the plane window. She ran forward and handed Anya a small card. "You're my hero," the girl said. The card had a drawing of a plane, with a tiny girl in the cockpit and a giant heart around it. Anya held it close. But something happened then. As she stepped onto the small stage set up for the ceremony, she noticed a man in the back. He was dressed in dark clothes, standing alone, watching her, not clapping, not smiling. Anya's heart skipped. There was something serious about him. The event continued. The mayor gave a speech. A medal was announced. Anya was given a silver badge, with her name engraved, but her eyes kept going back to that man. Who was he? Why wasn't he celebrating? After the ceremony, he approached her quietly. "You're Anya Singh?" She nodded. "I'm Commander Blake. I work with International Aviation Investigation." Her mom stepped closer. "Is something wrong?" Commander Blake paused. "Not wrong, but unexpected." Anya's eyes narrowed. "What do you mean?" He handed her a tablet. On it was a video, cockpit footage, from the storm. Her hands on the controls, her calm voice giving instructions, her split-second decisions. He said slowly, "This was beyond impressive. so much so that it caught the attention of global agencies, including military aviation. Military? Anya asked, confused. They want to meet you, he said. They think you're more than just a brave girl. They think you're rare. Anya didn't understand what that meant. Her mom asked. She's only 13. Blake nodded. Exactly. That's why it matters. And we just discovered something even more unusual. He pulled out a file and opened it. Your father? Did you know he trained under a classified military flight program? Years ago? Anya was stunned. No, he was just a small airline pilot, Blake said. There's more to that story, and you may be part of something bigger than just one flight. Anya looked at him, unsure what to say. Then Blake leaned closer. We think there's something special in your brain, a natural instinct, like a sixth sense for flight, and if you're willing, we want to test it. Anya stood still, holding the medal in her hand, the crowd still celebrating behind her, but her life had just changed again. She didn't know what was coming next, but deep inside, something told her this was just the beginning, and as the clouds rolled again far above, the sky seemed to call her name. The airstrip lights were getting closer, but the danger was far from over. The old military airstrip didn't have a control tower, and there were no guiding signals. Just 2 faint lights and a cracked runway. Anya gripped the control wheel tightly. Her palms were sweating. She looked at the fuel gauge. It was almost at 0. We'll get one shot at this, she said quietly. Harris sat beside her, watching every move. Are you ready for this? He asked softly. Anya nodded. I don't know, but I'm going to try in the cabin. People had no idea how close they were to the edge. Many thought the worst part was over. Some were smiling again. Some were hugging. But no one knew they were flying almost empty. Back in the cockpit, Anya was trying to line up with the runway. The GPS wasn't clear. The map showed an airstrip, but no real-time data. It could be blocked, Harris said. It could be broken, Anya replied. We don't have a choice. Suddenly, a strong gust of wind pushed the plane sideways. Anya held the wheel, adjusting quickly. Wind speed, 22 knots. Harris read aloud. We'll be landing with a Anya exhaled. I've never done a crosswind landing. Me neither, Harris said. They both smiled just for a second, and then the seriousness returned. The plane was now 500 feet above the ground. The airstrip looked like a tiny gray line below. Lowering landing gear, Anya said. Harris flipped the switch. Landing gear down and locked. Flaps set 230. The plane was shaky. Anya could feel it fighting against her hands. Come on, she whispered. You can do this. Down below, the people in the nearest village had seen the plane coming. An old retired air traffic officer named Malik stood on his rooftop. His eyes widened. That's a 737, he said to his grandson. What's it doing here? He quickly grabbed his old radio set. He hadn't used it in 10 years, but he turned it on and tried to catch the frequency. By Lucor, maybe fate got through. A crackling voice came in the cockpit. Flight 2714. Do you read me? Anya jumped. Who was that? Harris picked up the radio. This is 2714. Who is this? Name's Malik, retired ATC. You're landing on old base for C. Yes, Harris said, surprised. We're out of fuel. Okay, I can guide you, but you'll need to trust me. Anya grabbed the mic. We trust you, Malik. Malik stood under the night sky, guiding them slowly. You're high. Drop 50 feet. Adjust left by 10 degrees. Anya followed each word. The plane was now only 300 feet from the ground. The runway still looked too short. Can we even stop in time? She asked. Harris didn't answer. They both knew the brakes were not in great condition. Just keep it straight, she said to herself, as the wheels touched the ground. The plane bounced once, twice, and then landed hard. The brakes screamed. Sparks flew from under the wings. People inside screamed again. The plane shook violently. Anya pushed all her weight into the controls. Brake, 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 Harris shouted. The plane skidded sideways but stayed on the runway. It finally stopped just 10 feet before the end. Silence, no one moved. Then the passengers broke into loud cheers and claps. People were crying, hugging, praying. Anya sat frozen in the seat. Her hands were still on the wheel. Harris touched her shoulder. We made it. Anya looked at him, her eyes wide. Did we really? Harris smiled. Yes, Captain. Outside, villagers ran toward the plane. Malik was already on a motorcycle, heading to the airstrip. Emergency lights began to appear. Someone had called the nearby rescue services. Anya finally stood up and walked into the main cabin. As soon as the passengers saw her, they stood and began to clap loudly. One little girl ran up and hugged her leg. You saved us, she said. Tears filled Anya's eyes, but she tried to stay calm. Thank you, she whispered. One old man with a white beard said, Who taught you to fly, child? Anya looked up at the sky. My father, he taught me everything. Later, when the rescue teams arrived, Anya was taken to a quiet room to rest. Reporters had already started arriving. News of a 13-year-old girl landing a 737 had gone viral. Cameras, phones, and microphones followed her everywhere. But she didn't want attention. She wanted her mother. She finally called her when her mother picked up. Anya's voice cracked. Mom? Her mother broke down crying. "You're alive." "I'm okay. We all are." That night, the entire country watched the news. Headlines read, "Young girl saves 2,714 from disaster." Her photo was everywhere. A girl in a pilot's seat. Serious, brave, silent. The internet exploded. Anya was now a household name. The next day, aviation officials came to investigate. Anya sat in front of serious-looking men in uniforms. "Who gave you permission to fly?" one asked. "No one," she said quietly. "I didn't ask." Another officer said, "But you broke every rule." Anya nodded. "Yes, but I saved everyone." Silence followed. Then one of them stood up and said, "You're a hero." Later, they told her that she would be honored at a national ceremony, but Anya just wanted to go home. She sat in the back of an ambulance with Harris, finally resting. "You were born to fly," he told her. She smiled, tired, maybe, but right now, "I just want to sleep." As they drove away, Malik stood by the road, watching her leave. He saluted quietly. His grandson asked, "Was she really the pilot?" Malik nodded. "She was more than that. She was a miracle." Back home, Anya was welcomed by her school, her neighbors, and even the government. She received letters from people around the world. Pilots wrote to her. Soldiers wrote to her. Even NASA sent a message. But she remained the same quiet, thoughtful, and humble. She visited her father's grave, sat down on the grass, placed her hand on the stone. "I did it, Papa," she whispered. "I flew, I landed, I saved them." A small breeze passed by, and for a moment, she felt like someone was standing behind her. She didn't turn, she just smiled. Years later, when people talked about legends in aviation, her name came up again and again. But Anya never boasted. She just kept learning, kept flying, because deep down, she knew something that many adults had forgotten. Courage isn't loud. It's quiet, it's calm, it's steady, like the sky after a storm. And it lives in a girl who once stepped into the cockpit when no one else could.